Hold on. Are we live? Mm-hmm. Can you see me?
Yep.
All right, here we go. All right, thank you. Hey, sorry for the technical difficulties, but now we're all the way live.
We certainly are.
We are all the way live. But check this out. Most people never get the opportunity to build their dreams. Some are never even given a chance to try. Tonight, entrepreneur and mentor Cheryl Lucero joins us live for a brutally honest conversation about business, struggle, survival, and what it really takes to build something from the ground up when the odds are against you. No fake guru bullshit, no sugarcoating, just real conversation. Caution! From the ashes of silence comes a voice that refuses to shut the fuck up. Welcome to Fierce and Fearless with Scoop Nemeth. Uh-oh, wrong video. Excuse me.
That's okay.
Wrong. Hey everybody, welcome to Fierce and Fearless with Scoop Nemeth. Awesome Friday to you. We're at episode 3. Episode 3, Trace. And Cheryl Lucero is here to talk with us. So, before we begin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. First and foremost, Brian, Scoop, I want to thank you for this opportunity to sit with you and to congratulate you on your latest and greatest accomplishment, your podcast. This is something that I've been well aware of. We've discussed it in many of our meetings. This has been a critical part of your business plan, your development of your business. And here we are in this fabulous, oh my gosh, this amazing studio, the Denver Media Center.
What?
Yeah, that's right. And I know you're going to ask me to share a little bit about myself. What I really love and appreciate is I'm sitting here in the heart of the 5 Points, Denver's OG 5 Points, which I grew up in as a little girl, a little chicanita, with my parents, of course, grew up here in the 5 Points. And this is where we're located tonight. And I'm just super excited. And then, of course, watching the opening of your podcast, it just creates more excitement and more joy to do this interview with you. So thank you so much, Scoop.
My pleasure, as always. Many people dream about starting a business, but very few dedicate their lives to helping people build theirs. So, Cheryl, where did that passion come from?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I have to say, ever since I was a little girl, I was very young, probably 10 or 11. Growing up in a family with 7 children, my mom and dad, we didn't have the financial opportunity, to have, I'm just going to use for Christmas as an example, to get lots of presents and lots of material things, which, we didn't even realize that was a thing that was important, because we had a lot of love and a lot of music and a lot of joy. However, one of my gifts, well, the gift that I did receive one year when I was about 10 or 11 was a chalkboard. It was a chalkboard with an eraser, and that was like, I really feel the beginning of my entire journey to become an instructor, an educator. And so I had my chalkboard. I had my 2 younger brothers who were very patient, my brother Jean, my brother Tim, and they were my guinea pigs, and we would play school. And I didn't realize I had a curriculum. I developed a curriculum. They were my students. And after school, we would play, school. We'd have school. School was in session. And I had my chalkboard, and I was teaching them, how to read, how to improve their reading, math. We had recess, and recess was sitting down watching the Flintstones. That was recess. So I was doing, I was creating, I guess, looking back now, creating my future of what I was really going to be and who I was going to develop into, and with the love for education. So the fact that, education has always been such a big part of my family, for all of us. My mom and dad always impressed the idea of learning. Whatever opportunity arose, learn from it. Whether it was good, whether it wasn't so good, take something from it, learn, apply it to your life. And so in my career, starting out as a young girl with my chalkboard, going to school at Escuela Tlatelolco, which was a school through the Denver Crusade for Justice, and learning how to develop my community leadership skills. With that combination, I was able to move on to starting my own business. I worked in corporate America 20 years. In 1997, I was so grateful, so happy to be laid off. I was laid off. That was really the first round of layoffs in terms of what we know what they are now. And so in 1997, I left corporate America, and I never looked back. I call myself a corporate refugee, and I began to explore the opportunity of starting a business, and I did that with my sister Sherry. And we took a course on how to write a business plan, how to create an actual plan, a written plan to develop and design something that, at the time we didn't know it would become sustainable. But again, here we are talking about education. So we were taking classes so we can learn how to build something that we could create and create a sustainable opportunity. So that's how it started for me.
All right. And before you became known for helping entrepreneurs and small business owners build their business, what were you doing professionally beforehand?
As I mentioned, I was doing a lot of things. I worked in corporate America for 20 years. I was in banking and life insurance, and that was good for me because I was able to really identify the pieces that were going to be valuable and transitional, something, the skill sets that I could transition on to create my own business. I also worked at Escuela Tlatelolco when my daughters were very young. I worked as I was a student, a teacher's aide. So again, I was in education. So I was doing a lot of things. I was involved in community, doing a lot of actions around healthcare, civil rights. That's really been the platform and the foundation for my life.
Yeah, that's very cool. Besides me, your longtime friend and client, have there been other small business owners with disabilities you've worked with over the years? And have you seen any of your students who are mentally and physically challenged go on to build successful businesses? Because one thing people underestimate is just how creative, driven, and entrepreneurial people with disabilities can really be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You nailed that. Well, of course, you're definitely a success story. I've had the great pleasure to work with you for the last, I'd say, 15, 20 years. Any class that I've ever delivered, you're there. You're there, you're asking questions, you're participating, you're working on the weekends, you're out and about doing your market research. So, of course, I want to feature and highlight your accomplishments. With that, I've worked with, oh my gosh, there's just so many to name. But to start off with you and, of course, John Sayles, who's also in the film industry, and he's a film director. I've worked with John. As a matter of fact, when I had my own radio show, the American Indian Reporter, I had John on my team. He was my videographer. And so he was excellent. He was professional. He showed up every week for my radio show. And so he utilized his skills to help me build my radio show, my platform. It was wonderful. And throughout my 29-year career, because I've been doing this as an entrepreneur for 29 years, and it's always been in the same industry. I've never jumped around in different industries, but I've had business partners. I've worked in different capacities, utilizing my entrepreneurial skills. But during this time, I also worked with the city of Denver, the Denver Workforce Development and the Office of Economic Development, and I designed a class, a 12-week course for the Denver Vocational Rehabilitation DVR. And this is really for individuals who are physically and mentally challenged. So I created a 12-week course, which I utilize, I still teach. And it really, it's designed, custom designed to assist anyone who is in need of starting a business. So I can work with them one-on-one. I can work with them in a group setting. And the goal, the ultimate goal, is I can help them write their business plan. I really want them to be a direct part of building that business plan, which, of course, you know what that's like, Scoop, because working with you, I give you assignments, right? We meet.
Right.
I give you the assignments. And as I give you the assignments, you're doing the research. We meet the following week, and we're building your written business plan. So that's really my ultimate goal. So I've worked with individuals who are, Jim Dorkins. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he couldn't work in a traditional setting because of PTSD. I've worked with individuals who are blind, who at one point I had a gentleman who had full sight, and when he was in his 40s, he started to lose his sight, which happens to a lot of, from what I understand, a lot of males start, it affects their macular degenerate, I think that's what you call it. Mm-hmm. It affects their eyesight. So this gentleman had owned a very successful construction company. And unfortunately, as time went on, he was losing his eyesight. So he could no longer operate in that capacity. So he enrolled in my class, and I worked with Denver Voc Rehab. I had a contract with them. And from that point, I was able to help him recreate his business idea, concept. And what he did is he opened up a cafe, because he loved to cook. He opened a cafe up in a new development, which was a mix of housing and business development. So, these are opportunities that I create. What I always want to ensure is that I'm keeping the doors of opportunity open for everyone and anyone. And another commitment that I've honored for the last 29 years, when I started in this industry and I started on my own, I said, and I made a commitment that I would remain in my community. And by that, I mean, I would keep my classes, my presence in the community. And I always tell everyone, you can come, anyone can attend my classes. I encourage it. I can, you can be from Mars, you can be from Jupiter, you could come from Golden, Brighton, Greeley, and they do. They come, from all over Colorado. However, I encourage them to come to my class, which my classes, again, are hosted in the inner city. So I teach at News Ed, at the Zone Marketplace. I teach at Emily Griffith, at the Denver Area Boys and Girls Club, the Denver Indian Center, Catholic Charities Transitional Housing, Escuela Tlatelolco, ACE Community Challenge School, Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez Library. And the point again is that I am committed to maintain my presence in the community. And because, I look at where we're at, where we've been, and when it comes to our inner city youth, there is such a shortage of access, if really not any access for our youth to learn about entrepreneurship and how to start their own business and how to create an opportunity, because many of them will be graduating, and many of them, I would say 65% from my research, will be starting their own business, going into the trades and graduating, and they need to have access to training and developing their plan of action, their written business plan. So that's how I do it, and that's a critical part of my mission statement.
All right, so what are the biggest challenges you see new entrepreneurs make when they first start a business? And what are the warning signs that somebody may be jumping in before they're truly prepared?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I would say one of the biggest main challenges is, they just don't know what they don't know. And that's basically, that's sounds very basic, but that's where the starting point is. Whenever anyone calls me, contacts me, one of their first questions is, I'd like to start a business. I don't know how can you help me? And one of my immediate responses, do you have a written business plan? And often they don't, and that's okay. But I can't say all of them. A lot of individuals do have a written business plan. However, they're not sure how to implement that business plan, or they don't realize that they need to, update the business plan. They don't know how to put it into action. So all of my classes, regardless of what class I'm teaching, I custom design all of my classes to fit the needs of my market. My classes are designed holistically. They're high quality, professional. I have my instructors who are a part of my training team, and they all come to the class in their area of expertise, their specific industry, and they teach on various topics of the written business plan. So the goal, again, is to teach, to deliver a quality training program to anyone who needs help either starting or growing their business.
All right, keep talking.
And I would say, given in the economic time where we're at now, one of the main challenges is how do we start a business with the economy the way that it is? Prices are high, obviously. And I tell everyone, don't let that intimidate you. I'm not telling them, just jump right in, and I'm not giving them any false hopes. That's why you have to come in. You have to learn how to build your business plan. You have to do your market research. You have to know your statistics, because once you can put all of those pieces together in that plan, I say piecing that puzzle together, then it can really help you identify in what direction you can go. For example, I had a gal who was interested in starting a restaurant. She's a fabulous cook. She has her family recipes. There's a lot, so many layers. But she was interested her thoughts were to access capital, go for a loan. So when I sat down with her, she took the classes. She took several classes of mine. What she discovered is that it would not be feasible for her to jump into a brick and mortar, especially in this day and age. So as time went on and I worked with her, what she discovered is the idea of creating two things, one of two things. It could either be similar to DoorDash or it could be a food truck. So these are the things, taking the class and putting together a written business plan helps you or any of us to identify the realistic goals. And with those goals come your strategies and your techniques. And again, I've worked with you, Scoop, and we've talked about when you started designing your clothing wear. Beautiful, awesome. We looked at the various costs of different materials, the bamboo, the hemp, right?
Yep.
But it wasn't something that you jumped into. I didn't encourage that because what I wanted you to do is I wanted you to do your market research. You did your market research, you came back, you looked at the pricing structure, you compared your prices, you did your risk analysis. You've been doing that. And that's what helps someone to create a sustainable business. The goal for me being in business, for Scoop, for anyone, is to create a sustainable business. By that I mean that's going to be a business that's going to make it through the good times and the difficult times. What are your challenges and what are your strategies? What's your innovation? What are your strategies given the times that we're in, the economic downturn that we're in? So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. And many entrepreneurs dream of having a brick-and-mortar business, especially a brick-and-mortar retail business. Mm-hmm. But the reality is cost and risk can be brutal, can be a real cluster fudge. That's why I think the zone marketplace is such a powerful concept for many startup and independent businesses. It's the next best thing to having a full storefront of their own. So Cheryl, what exactly is the zone and how does it help entrepreneurs take the next big leap?
Okay, so I love all of your questions. So the zone marketplace is an incubator for startup retail businesses. We don't provide housing for service businesses because they are not in need of the space and the housing. Because with the service business, you can operate remotely, and that's the beauty of being in the service industry, which I'm in the service industry, and I'm remote. And that's what really sets me apart. My market niche is that I can travel. I can travel the world, and I could deliver my service of business development education. Now, with the retail business, yeah, sure, they could. I mean, it depends. They can have an online store. There's so many different techniques and strategies now and approaches. But if someone here in Colorado were truly interested in learning how to develop a retail business, because again, there's so many layers. You're looking at the pricing structure, the inventory. You're looking at all the facets of the business. You're looking at the legal structures. Every business has that. And so when you come to the Zone Marketplace, which is an incubator that was started about 15 years ago under the direction of NewsEd, we provide the opportunity for anyone who's starting a retail business with access to, I say housing. So they have what is now commercial space, affordable commercial space. When we wrote the business plan, the strategical plan, one of the critical pieces was because it's a nonprofit, was to keep it, of course, in the community. So it's community owned. So no gentrification is going to happen there.
Fuck no.
And also to ensure that our students who are coming out of the classes have access to start and learn how to build their retail business. So typically they're in the space located at 733 Santa Fe Drive for 2 years. And throughout those 2 years, they have an actual boutique. You know, I'm really big on reminding everyone that it's not a flea market, it's not a co-op, they're not vendors, they're actual solid business owners, and they now have boutiques. And at the boutique, they can operate their business and sell their products, their retail products. As a matter of fact, you were a tenant. You were there.
Of course.
And your goal is to bring you back, so we'll look at that. And right now we have 5 businesses, and we have individuals who are silversmiths, jewelry, silver and turquoise, all handcrafted. We have, so that would be Lorena. We have Lorena Salazar. We have Susie Thurgood, and her daughter Michelle. Susie blends. She creates homemade, handcrafted health and wellness products, arnica, magnesium, which I use. I'm a big fan of. You know, I support all of my business owners. Anything I can do, whether purchase from them, refer them, promote them, consult with them. I'm their biggest fan. And often, you know, over the 29 years, I have to say I've built so many solid relationships. They become my friends and like family. And that's definitely something that I've really built my business on, the premise, the idea, the mission of building relationships. Because one of the biggest challenges of starting and growing a business is feeling of being an orphan. You know, you start a business and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, who do I talk to? Where do I go? I feel alone. And then, you know, and then that gives you that fear, and that's when sometimes people will just give up. What my goal is when I work with my students, and this begins in any of my classes, one of the things I really encourage is for my students to begin the idea of networking. I have Brian come into my class. I give him 10, maybe 15 minutes at the end of each class, and he promotes his business and his GoFund, and he really has the opportunity to showcase and show off what he's been doing, because I believe in Brian. You know, I host events. We host events, Palabra. It's a very unique, beautiful business community gathering with Marlene Rose Vigil. We hosted at the Art Contained Del Sol with Rebecca Rosales, Deb Scarpella, and we invite community members, business leaders, and we have fashion shows. You know, we feature our small business community who are really on the ground, who often don't have the opportunity to be featured through a chamber or, you know, associations. And I'm not knocking chambers. I'm not knocking any business associations, because I have been a member of all of them. You name it, and I've been a member. The Rocky Mountain Indian Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber. I've been out there 29 years. So I've really, you know, I was accused a while back, it's been years ago, of being the queen of networking. And I said, that's cool. I'll take it. Because again, my goal is that I'm building relationships. So when I'm introducing people in my classes and I'm encouraging them to build relationships, it's because I genuinely want to see all of us create that success that we feel that, you know, whatever that looks like. I always say we all measure success differently, and we really do. And so, you know, whatever that looks like, and you write that in your business plan. You know, everything that I talk about when I'm talking about business in class, one-on-one, with my comadres, when I have my business meetings, and I'm talking business, it's really factored into your business plan, because it's going to end up being a part of your long-term goals. And, you know, along with the successes and the excitement of having a business is, of course, you know, what are your strategies to stay in business? What are your challenges? And just recently, last year was one of the most difficult, challenging years for me. And I'm sharing it because this is something you have to think about. when you're starting a business. Life happens. And so last year I had a major challenge. And, you know, I took a little bit of time off, but I kept going. I'm still here because I know this is what my family would want. My family wants. This is what my son Cisco, who was going to be a part of my training team. And so, you know, the point is that you have to think about, like, you know, life happens. What are the challenges you may be faced with? Those are the risks. And you build that in your business plan. And you think about, I didn't put that into my business plan, but it's thank you, Brian. And Brian's been here with me through thick and thin. But my point is, you want to think about, you know, like for me, for example, I'm not about to give up because this is my life passion, working with my community, working with inner city youth, working with adults, and providing access to opportunities where some doors will never open for, you know, some of us. And I love my community. So I know I said a mouthful, but that really, in a nutshell, is why I fulfill my mission every day. This is my heart's desire.
All right, so right there on the bottom of your screen, we're taking live calls at 720-337-4201. That's the phone number on the bottom of your screen. If you have questions for both of us, we're taking calls, and we'll be so glad to answer them. And while we wait for our call, and we're also answering questions on the live chat as well. So whether or not you choose the live chat to ask a question or call us, either way, we want you to be a part of the live conversation. We want you to be a part. Join us at home and call us and talk to us on business and whatever your dreams are and everything. And while we're waiting for our first call or our first question from the live chat, I'd like to share my experience at the Zone. At the Zone Business Connection Center, which is now the Zone Marketplace, I had my stuff in there before, which is the exercise swimwear and designing clothes for women, which was Superwoman Designs, which is now has changed to Primacea Couture. I'm now offering more than just women's clothes. I'm also offering clothes and awesome designs for men, and more importantly, kick-ass and chic designs for people who are mentally and physically challenged. And that's the new stuff I want to display and sell at the Zone Marketplace.
Well, and actually I have to cut in right here. I have to, share my thoughts about what you're saying about your products. Even more than that, Brian has already, I believe he's superseded his goals because he's participated in many of my events, and he's already created his name with his fashion shows and his products. And he actually was one of the highest selling business owners at the event when you were selling your one-piece suit, taking custom orders. So he's very humble. But I get to witness everything that he's doing and really pay attention, monitor his growth. And Brian, working with him, it's just amazing because we have our strategy when we meet. We have our strategy and our discipline so that we can get through our hour or hour and a half meeting. And one thing I want to say about Brian that's really important that every business owner and everyone should know, in order to create a successful outcome, and it could be the most minor thing, discipline. discipline is really the driving force. You know, I always tell everyone, when you start a business, you're going to go through a process, a daily process. Some days are going to be great. Some days are going to be very, very challenging. But what's going to sustain you, and this is really, I think, a life, just in life, a value, a characteristic of an entrepreneur is your discipline. Your discipline is what's going to drive you, and it's going to drive you to whatever it is that you want to create, whatever it is that you want to do. And you can't do it alone. You know, I've heard business owners, you know, not in my circle, but I've heard people say that they pulled themselves up by their own bootstraps. I'm like, no, you didn't. You don't even have any boots. You don't own any boots. And you can't. No one can do anything on their own. You really, you know, it's important that we ask for help. We reach out.
No one can claim they're self-made.
No, because we all do. We all reach out. Whether you're calling and asking someone for a resource, a lead, what have you, those are all, you know, those are all reaching out. That's asking for help, and that's okay. We shouldn't feel intimidated or embarrassed if we ask for help. That's what really creates a wonderful business environment, is when you build a network like we have, right?
Right.
You know, and I tell everyone, you may call me and ask me questions, legal questions, for example, about your legal structure. How do you structure your business? An LLC? Do you do a sole proprietor? Because those are all components I teach in my class, because they're critical parts of a written business plan. And because I'm not a lawyer, I don't plan on becoming a lawyer, you know. I don't need to do that, and I wouldn't. So what I do is I have experts who are on my team who I can refer my students and my clients to. I work very closely with the DU Community Law Clinic, the Entrepreneurial Law Clinic, and they are a group of emerging business, Colorado small business lawyers, and they are learning under the direction and expertise of a professor who is a small business lawyer, and they are a part of my training team. So what they do is they come into the class for an hour, and I have them teach and empower my students about legal structures. What is a legal structure? You know, you have to start at the very basic, the bottom. What does that even mean? So your legal structure is how you're going to structure your business when you register. Will you be an LLC, a partnership? So they really cover that in depth. They answer questions. And then if you need help formulating your legal documents, your partnership agreements, your vendor, whatever, because you're a student of my student, I can refer you to their clinic, and they'll provide pro bono services. And that's the beauty, again, of going back to talking about building relationships, collaborations. That is a beauty. And it's not enough just to create it and walk away from it. You nurture it. And I've been working, the DU Law Clinic has been on my training team for 15 years. And you know, it's beautiful when you can pick up the phone, you can call someone, you can say to them, you know, my student needs help. And they're more than willing to go that extra mile. And I do the same, you know, for others too. So it's really a beautiful give and take, the collaboration, the friendship. So I hope we get some phone calls.
We got our first question.
Okay.
On the live chat. Can Cheryl explain to us how she tailors her consulting services to the particular needs of her specific client, since each client's needs are different?
Sure. What I do is I'll meet with them one-on-one. You know, my students come through my class. That's a starting point. And then from there, I've already started to identify individually. My first initial conversation with my students, it's hands-on. I speak to every student. I call every student. I've been doing this for 29 years. Although, you know, we have access to technology, people do register for the class. I personally call each and every student before class. I introduce myself, and I want to find out about their business. I want to talk to them about what their needs are, so I can really start to gain an idea of who they are and what the needs are. So when they come into the class, I'm feeling that they feel, I should say, they feel valued. And so, and then I share that with my training team because I have my instructors. I want to ensure that my instructors are delivering the content that's critical for my students. And so, I spend a lot of time really getting to know the students. And then after the class, I provide the one-on-one, and I typically give 2 hours of free consulting. So that's the business advice. And then from that point, then, of course, then I charge because, my time, you're on the clock for me to help you build your business, help you to build your written business plan. In the beginning when I started, I didn't want to charge, because culturally, a lot has to do with culture. You don't charge, you don't ask for money. There's a lot of things that really come into factor as being a woman and culturally, and not asking for help, maybe, or not asking to charge someone. You just do things without, you do it humbly. But I realize being in business, it's important that I ask for what my value is. But I'm still very reasonable. One thing I've made it a point for 29 years is my classes are offered free of charge, and that is a part of my business plan. And what I do is I identify the funders. I go after the funding streams. So any place that I've ever taught, the Denver Indian Center, Emily Griffith Technical College, Catholic Charities Transitional Housing, you name it, I negotiate the contract to get them to be my funders, become the funders of my classes. Therefore, it allows me to open the classes free of charge. That's a major, major victory, a major opportunity for my community. So again, I meet with you one-on-one, and I help you custom design your business plan to meet your business needs.
All right, here's another question from Jesse Gueron 6480. When you're on the fence about starting your own business, afraid of failure, what is one piece of advice can you and Cheryl give to getting over that hump and actually pursuing your dream?
I say do it. Don't just jump flying leap with blindly. Again, that's why I offer classes. Any class that I offer, the course is really, whether it's to adults or inner city youth, the ultimate goal is that you learn how to write a business plan, because your business plan is your blueprint for you to build, to start and grow a business. It really helps you identify from the beginning if this business is feasible, if you can create something. And again, I mentioned this earlier. You start doing your research. You start identifying the opportunity. You start looking at, is there a market? Are there customers? And I can't, this is a class, actually, full 12-week course I teach. And based on, taking a class, and it doesn't have to be my class. I encourage everyone to take classes online. Take as many classes. Introduce yourself to education, business development education. I guess, that would be and find a group of entrepreneurs, like-minded people. Surround yourself with people who are positive, people who think like an entrepreneur. Often entrepreneurs, small business owners are misunderstood. They don't understand how we think. We're so out. Well, I don't even think there's a box. I can't say we're outside of the box, because for me, there's no box. What are your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, I think that getting over rejection is something I've struggled with. Like I said in my debut edition of Fierce and Fearless, I was walking up and down Tejon Street, up and down in downtown Colorado Springs, selling my writing pieces, audio CDs, and T-shirts, and I used to get stuff like, no thank you, not interested, I think I'll pass, and getting the same and fearing the same thing when I'm walking around as a stadium, like looking like a stadium vendor, hawking Primacea Couture, and my first attempt at selling my stuff over at the Mile High Flea Market for the very first time last summer, didn't go as well as I hoped, despite the fact that there were a shitload of people who walk around the flea market every Sunday. And what I needed was a colorful display, an attractive table, and lots more merchandise besides the t-shirts, the handmade soap, and the coffee mugs. Need more stylish clothes also to sell.
Well, and you know, to add to that, really, you know, step outside if you're, you know, you're in that, not in a, we all have a comfort zone, obviously. That's, you know, just how it is in life. Be willing to step out of that comfort zone, but surround yourself again with the right people. You know, take classes, just expose yourself, begin to expose yourself to classes that are going to teach you, empower you with education about building a business. So, you know, right there, you may not even have to go into a classroom because you have access, you know, to the World Wide Web. I take classes all the time. I take classes through the Small Business Administration online, through the SCORE counselors who are counselors who offer free training classes. It's capital S, capital C, capital O, capital R, and capital E. And it's a subsidiary of the SBA. And they provide a host of online classes, and typically they're free, and if they're not, they're very minimal and they're worth it. And you can learn, you know, how to build your business. You'll learn about marketing. What is marketing? What is your marketing plan? Because you have to have a solid written plan of action. Again, the things that I talk about, I'm just touching on lightly and politely because these are topics, these are the pieces, the layers that I teach in my class. And you know, when I wrote my very first business plan with my sister, it took us about 6 months to really understand and solidify, to create a solid plan. We were always going back to the drawing board, and it was great, you know. And I had my sister. My sister's no longer working with me in the business, you know, but she's definitely one of my consultants. She's my biggest support. My family, oh my gosh, you know, I have my children. They believe in me. They think I'm crazy, you know, and I am. I'm la loca, but they believe in me. You know, I have my family. I have my community. And there again, you know, circling back to building that community of people. Because you're not alone. You're not alone. There's a lot of us out here who are willing to help you get started. And just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, and also, like to share another awesome experience with Palabra. The Palabra is the small business networking where you have a table where you get to sell your cool stuff, a vendor table, and you get to network. Plus there's live music and entertainment and lots of good refreshments. And this is where I first showcased the disabled, the autistic models, including Shayla Steffens,
yes,
and her son Braden, and Felicia Hernandez. She also was a volunteer model walking the runway, and she provided the live entertainment that night. Plus, for the second Palabra, I've included 2 more disabled models, Haley Yates and Jen Dunlap along with Shayla. So this is so Palabras with the 10-minute fashion show, that was so awesome.
It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle to help move small businesses, elevate you to the next level. And I created that concept. It was a thought that I had. I called my comadre Marlene, and together we created that. We developed it and delivered it. So my point is, attending networking events, just reaching out, going online. Don't seclude yourself, isolate yourself. That's the worst thing you can do. But I also want to invite everyone. I do a monthly class, and I've been doing this particular class for 18 years consistently, once a month, and it's Key Strategies for Business Success. And it's a 3-hour class you attend, and it's really the intro to starting a business or growing your business. And I offer that class free of charge. My sponsor is NewsEd. Thank you so much, NewsEd. Chase Bank are the sponsors. And I have a class that's coming Tuesday. I offer the class at the last Tuesday of every month from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And you can find it online. I have a Facebook page, Cheryl Lucero. I have Instagram. And you can text me. I ask everyone to text. That'll show me you're really interested, and then I'll call you back. It's just, and I'll call you back. I'll respond to your text, and then I'll send you the link. You'll register, and you're in like Glenn. You're in the class, and it's free of charge. And the classes are fun, too. That's one thing. I want to ensure that everyone's having a good time, everyone's networking, and that you're empowered. By the time you leave, which most people, when I teach any of my classes, people don't want to leave. Everyone's so excited. They're empowered, they're excited, and it's cool, and they want to stick around. Maybe a half an hour passes by, then an hour. Finally, I have to tell them, you don't have to go home, but you just can't stay here. But you got to go. But with that, I want to thank you, Brian, so much. Do we have any other questions?
Nope. I don't think we have any other questions or comments or whatnot.
Oh, yeah. Let me give my number. My number is 720-299-5268. 720-299-5268. Cheryl Lucero. You can text me. I don't have a website. I don't need a website anymore.
What's the phone number again?
720-299-5268. And you can send me a simple text that you heard about me.
5268. Mm-hmm.
And that
for Cheryl.
You're interested in receiving the information regarding my classes, and the rest is history.
Awesome. There were no live calls, but we did get some good questions from the YouTube live chat.
We did. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, I'm dedicating my classes going forward to my son in memory of my beautiful son, Francisco Cisco Lucero. That's real important I say that.
That is so good. That is so beautiful.
He loved you, Scoop, and he believed in you. Scoop knew my son, and my son really believed in Scoop. So with that, thank you.
My pleasure. Well, that's it. That's the Scoop. Thank you so much for making this podcast a part of your Friday.
Absolutely.
Thank you to Cheryl Lucero.
Right on.
And like we said, the next business class is this upcoming Tuesday, May 18th, 7 o'clock p.m.
May 19th.
May 19th at 7 p.m., 725 Santa Fe Drive, Denver, Colorado, 80204. And you can call Cheryl and leave her a text message, and she will get back to you, because when you call her, when you give her a ring, she has to watch herself from any spam calls.
A lot of ridiculous spam calls. I don't want to waste my time. So when you text me, naturally I'll see who you are, and I'll respond immediately. So thank you.
All right. That's another edition of Fierce and Fearless. we're going to leave you with, hey, come on. Life is a difficult bitch, especially when the world wasn't built for you. But however you move through the world, do it fierce, do it fiercely. Aight? I'm Brian Scoop Nemeth. Till we meet again, rise like a badass motherfucker. Peace.
Woo.